The 3DO was a 32-bit gaming console released in 1993. It had the great distinction of being one of the most expensive consoles ever released at that time, costing even more than the mighty Neo Geo. It had a peculiar business model where the entire console was based on a licensing program to electronics manufacturers, who would then produce the hardware themselves. While that method proved ill-conceived, there's no question the 3DO was an absolute powerhouse back then. It was giving us textured map 3D polygons a year before the Saturn and PlayStation hit Japan, and even longer before they showed up in the West. It was so incredible to play these games at that time, and most people wouldn't have a similar experience until years later. Though I played and loved my 3DO, I always knew one of its major weaknesses had been its lack of big-time third-party support. It overcame its high asking price quickly with a series of rapid price deductions, but it never was able to court the companies it needed to make the popular games that would sell it. That was a hell of a shame too, because we got the odd taste here and there with games like Super Street Fighter II Turbo that showed the 3DO could do some prolific software in the right hands. I admit at the time I had visions of additional arcade ports like NBA Jam, Mortal Kombat, and even Sega's own Virtua Racing. None of that came to be, of course, and the 3DO would be slaughtered by the newer 32-bit consoles by 1996. It seems I wasn't the only 3DO fan who wanted to see a Mortal Kombat back then. The homebrew team, calling themselves 3DO HD, has built a port of Mortal Kombat 2 for that console from the ground up. It started back in 2023, and we now have a publicly available beta for your consumption. How's this coming along, and is it worth your time to play it? Let's find out. When you start up Mortal Kombat 2 3DO Edition, you are greeted with the story intro, the familiar arcade music, and the title screen. The options menu allows you to fiddle with difficulty settings and other game-related choices like blood in the timer. The arena tour is a stage viewer for some of the gorgeous backgrounds in the game. While they are based on the arcade, there are now upgraded options with enhanced color and detail. There's a versus option that I didn't try out, and of course the arcade mode that allows you to fight through the cast and see the story unfold.
Fight.
Visually, the Mortal Kombat 2 port is astonishing. It absolutely destroys the other 16-bit home ports during that time, and I dare say it puts the Saturn and PlayStation versions to shame. This version has excellent color, large sprites, smooth animation, and it suffers none of the shortcomings you'd expect, like the lack of parallax scrolling. These fighters and the backgrounds around them would have wowed everyone had this been ported to the 3DO back in September of 1994. Some of this comes as little surprise. The 3DO was a powerful piece of kit by the standards of its time, and we had already seen fighting games on it that looked fairly impressive. But it's one thing to hypothesize quality, and it's something else entirely to see it with your own eyes. Here it is side by side with the emulated arcade version, and as you can see, it holds its own and then some. My biggest question about this port was how would the relatively small amount of VRAM in the 3DO handle this game when the Saturn and PlayStation struggled so mightily with it. While this project is far from finished, I'd say so far the developer should be proud, because as far as graphics go, this is a resounding success.
Finish him. Flawless victory. Fatality.
Sound and music is a huge part of this game's appeal. From the booming sound effects to the creepy stage themes, Mortal Kombat 2 had a uniqueness that really added to the experience. One of the biggest complaints you'll hear about the home ports back then is that many of them messed all that up, either changing the music or leaving out important sound effects that made everything feel different. Mortal Kombat 2 on a 3DO doesn't make this mistake, and really comes through. You get the voices, screams, and flesh-ripping punishment loud and clear. Have a listen and see for yourself.
Finish him. Scorpion wins. Fatality.
As much as I have praised the visuals and sound, the gameplay in this beta feels a lot different from the arcade original. Blocking attacks, how the various moves hit you, combos, input timing, everything about the way it moves just feels off from the arcade. It's also slower and weightier, lending the game an almost sluggish feel. This at first was a complete turnoff because I couldn't play it as I had the original arcade. The AI is also different and doesn't respond or attack in the same fashion. It approximates all these things, but none of them feel just right. It's familiar, but almost like an alternative realities version of the same content. Arcade purists will spend a few minutes with this and likely come away extremely disappointed.
Round 2. Fight.
Get over here!
The more I played Mortal Kombat 2 on a 3DO, I admit that I began to enjoy the way it felt. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was close enough to develop its own vibe, and the flow was actually easy to adjust to. After a few play sessions, I found what I needed to deal with these changes, and started really having fun with it. I'd even go so far as to recommend to the developer to not pursue arcade-accurate gameplay in this case. You have effectively created Mortal Kombat 2 where it's both familiar and new at the same time. Embrace this and let it be its own thing. Smooth out any glitches or rough spots if you must, but as far as the 3DO version being special, you have accomplished this already. Many times in my line of work I get questions about why would anyone want to play a retro port of an arcade game where emulation is so readily available. In a way, Mortal Kombat 2 3DO has answered this question by offering gameplay that is very unique to this version.
Finish him. Scorpion wins.
It's extremely important to note that Mortal Kombat 2 on the 3DO is unfinished. There are no character-specific fatalities or other finishers. There are bugs, Shang Tsung can only morph into the fighter he's facing, and finally audio performance can be skippy when playing from a burned CD. The developer has stated that there is still much more work to be done, but I think the foundation is rock solid for whatever this ends up being. The 3DO has been harnessed well from a technical standpoint, and while the gameplay feels different, I'd argue it's different in a good way. With all that in mind, the question becomes, is this the best version of Mortal Kombat 2 to ever be ported to a home console? The answer is no, not if the feel of the arcade gameplay is what you're after. The Super Nintendo and even the Genesis versions feel closer to the arcade than this, but don't let that get in the way of enjoying this great project. What it lacks in authenticity, it more than makes up for in personality.
No.
I'll drop you a link in the description so you can download the latest version and keep up with the project so you can see how it's faring. Should you want to support this project, I'll also put a link to the developer so you can send any support their way to help them out. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.